Stop with the questions. Celebrate.
And then they say, is Donald Trump an intellectual? Trust me, I'm like a smart person.
The Yosemite's one of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water.
Mike Lindell's a conspiracy.
But you haven't.
Person, woman, man, camera, TV. They said nobody gets it in order. It's actually not that easy, but for me it was easy.
Amazing. He can't sit down. He's got a burning in his butthole. He's got a fire. He's got a flame coming out of his butthole.
Big, massive dumps.
Oh, I have a term for that. I call it corporate communism.
Somebody sent me a thing this morning where they're talking about putting the vaccine into salad dressing.
You see, this is a simple meme that you would find on the internet, but this meme is very real.
You ain't seen nothing yet until you see the flaming butthole.
Putting us on our knees to China.
It's like a Sharknado, except with poop.
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. Around the nation, Waldorf Nation, Jeff Waldorf here with you. So yes, I'm back today. You may have noticed that I was not here for the last couple of days, but I did put out some clips earlier today. I'm feeling a little bit better today, so we're doing a show. We got a fun show. We got, of course, more Capitol rioters, fun stuff. We got more tea that is being spilled by Stephanie Grisham. That's always fun. We're going to have a Mike Pillow segment, so yeah, be prepared for Pillow Talk, of course. I also want to talk about Facebook, the Facebook Whistleblower, and what I think can be done about the Facebook situation. And I know some of you watch on Facebook. I stream on Facebook, make money from Facebook, and so understand that, like, what I'm saying here of what we should do could obviously impact my bottom line. But I think that the safety of the country is a little bit more important than how much money I make or how much money we make or anything like that. And so I'm going to talk about that. Again, full disclosure here. It's not just Facebook that's a problem. It's also YouTube. It's also all the different social media platforms that, yes, I stream from. This is my career. I make my money. At the same time, there are some serious problems with disinformation, serious problems with it being a corporation, a for-profit corporation, et cetera, et cetera. And so I want to go into that as well. We also are going to talk about the Pandora papers. We can dive in. We've got that. And so, yeah, a lot of stuff today. I've been very, very busy trying to catch up over the last couple of days I've missed. As I said before, I put out 3 videos earlier today from stories that happened earlier in the week, and I wanted to get those out. So if you could watch those, check those out, of course, after the live show. I appreciate that. There we are. Yeah, so we're pretty much all caught up here. Thank you so much for the well wishes, of course. Appreciate that. You're very, very, very kind. Again, thank you for understanding. Thank you for understanding, and thank you for being patient, of course, as I was gone. I like to be here every day, do the news, and, it's, it sucks when I'm gone. and it sucks when I have to take time off. But what can you do? Am I still banned from your YouTube chat? Were you ever banned? I don't recall banning you. If a mod did it, then obviously it didn't work because you're still here. I can see your super chats. I can see your chats. So okay. Now, also asks, who is the final Smash character? Again, I swear it was somebody from a very popular video game series owned by Disney. So, all right. So I don't play Smash. I don't play Smash Brothers. I know one of my friends is very, very upset at the fact that I do not play Smash. But raises an interesting point about that I hadn't considered. So at least back in my when I was not feeling well, I wasn't exactly thinking as clearly. I can't post anything except for Super Chat. That's very, very odd. That's very odd. I don't see any part where you are banned. But anyway, I'll look into that and see what's happening about it. Sora, that's the character they're referring to. So the thing that we're talking about here is, and it kind of fits in with the Facebook conversation actually about companies being too big. And so this person is convinced, and with good reason, that this could be a precursor to Disney acquiring another company, and getting even bigger and more powerful, and having more sway over our media, which again is actually a pretty good point and something that I hadn't considered. So that's very good insight on that. So yeah, and when I first saw that, I was like, okay, and Sora's a Smash character, who cares? But then it's like, oh, wait, you're right. That is a good point. That is a good point. And so maybe are we looking forward to more Disney acquisitions after they had bought Marvel, after they had bought Star Wars, after they had purchased all these different media companies? Now possibly Square Enix? So no, this is an excellent point. Can you stop calling me out for pointing out that this is possible? But it's a good point. I'm giving you credit. I'm giving you credit for making me think about something that I hadn't thought about. So I'm giving you credit. Giving you credit. All credit. All credit. Try to be nice. Try to be nice. All right. So anyway, corporations can never be too big. The capitalists told me so. Yes. It's true. Very true. Very true. All right. So again, let me look into it, because as far as I know, you shouldn't be banned from the channel. But again, I don't even know how to look into that. But I will do it after the show. Okay. Anyway. So let's dive in here. Kingdom Hearts has been a thing for a long time. I doubt Disney will do that. Not sure. Okay. Anyway. So let's dive in. We'll start out with the first segment here. Got some crying rioters. Mobile issue. Yeah, I can't. I found a weird thing that I can't do super chats to other channels. Like, it doesn't work on my mobile. It doesn't work on my desktop. It's weird. Okay. A pair of individuals who have pleaded guilty for assaulting Capitol Police during the January 6th Capitol riot are real sorry. They're very sorry. They feel very bad. Very, very bad. Oh, my bad, dog. Real sorry about that whole attempting to overthrow the government thing and install Donald Trump after losing a legitimate election. I'm real sorry. My bad. So I've got a couple of individuals here. The first one, according to a report from WUSA 9, Florida man, yes, of course, Florida man, Robert Palmer pleaded guilty to attacking Capitol Police with both a wooden plank and a fire extinguisher while dressed in a red, white, and blue Trump jacket. All the style, all the rage. Now, Palmer got caught, as I said. He's in court and was reportedly in tears at his sentencing hearing. Oh, sad baby. Very, very sad. Palmer was originally arrested in March by federal agents, in part with the help of Huffington Post investigators. Palmer told the U.S. District Court Judge Tanya Chutkan that he was the one identified in Department of Justice images who threw a wooden plank at police, sprayed a fire extinguisher at officers till it was empty, and then, when it was empty, threw the empty fire extinguisher can at police. I don't know. That seems pretty deliberate. You know, after you run out and go, you know what? There you go. Take that. You'll never take me alive. Except they did. So contrast that image with this description. Before the court hearing, Palmer was sobbing under the shoulder of his defense attorney, Bjorn Brunvend, moments before the two men entered court for Palmer to plead guilty to felony assault on law enforcement. Now, felony assault on law enforcement, or just assault and obstructing certain officials causing injury, would be considered a Class G felony against a person with a maximum sentence of imprisonment for 4 years. According to the report, Brunvand said of Palmer's breakdown, quote, "That was Mr. Palmer being remorseful for what he did on January 6th, and also afraid of what's to come." And what is to come? Jail sentence, perhaps? So, no, I'm not buying the crocodile tears at all. I don't think these people are remorseful. I think the only thing they're really actually sad about is being caught, because that's what they're always sad about. But, of course, and understand, too, that if they were as remorseful as they sounded, they would have either immediately turned themselves in during or even after the attack. When things started to get crazy, they would be like, oh, God, what am I doing? Okay, I'm sorry. Well, please, like, I'm doing something wrong. You should stop me. But, or, again, afterwards, it shouldn't have taken a team of Huffington Post investigators to, to find him out. But we're not done. Oh, no. Another rioter. On Tuesday, NBC4 Washington reporter Scott McFarland reported that Donna Bissey, who was accused of joining the mob breaking into the Capitol, was also pleading, but this time she is pleading for leniency in a handwritten letter to the court. Ah, yes. This is going to be good. What's she asking for? For her crimes, she is asking for a sentence of 18 months probation. Just probation, no prison time, and she's demanding it. In the letter, Bissey described herself as a God-fearing, country-loving, law-abiding, hard-working patriot who only attended several of President Trump's events without incident. Oh, so you want a cookie? Oh, you want us to celebrate the fact that you showed up on a couple of Donald Trump's events without getting crazy and violent. There are people that do that all the time. There are people that show up to events all the time and don't end up breaking into the Capitol. Political events, even emotionally charged political events, and decide, no, we're not going to do violence. We're not going to invade the Capitol. We're not going to do anything like that. No, we're going to be like normal human beings and express our frustrations through the ballot box, which is what you're supposed to do. But they didn't. So, saying that, I'm a God-fearing, country-loving, law-abiding citizen. Except for that one time when I broke the law Well, that would mean that you were opposite of law-abiding. I'm just saying, as well as the opposite of country-loving, because you tried to literally reinstall a person to the presidency, to the leadership of the country, who was not elected leader. You know what that's called? That's a coup. That's what that is. So these people don't understand words and what they actually mean. So come on. All right, so now, furthermore, she is going to whine about being treated unfairly. I love this. She says that after her role in the insurrection became public, her hair salon suffered huge losses, and she is being shunned by the people in her small town. Oh, and let the shunning begin. Let the shunning continue. God forbid somebody choose to not patronize an establishment run by an insurrectionist MAGA chud. But you don't understand. I deserve your money. I deserve your business, even though I'm a shit human being. No, you don't. No, you don't. You get nothing. Nothing. Play stupid games. Win stupid prizes. You're about to win the stupidest prize of all. Jail time. No, but again, on this one, look, she has no remorse, just like the last one, because, they've got no remorse other than, of course, getting caught. Because earlier she had even bragged about being at the Capitol. On social media, she had stated that January 6th was the best effing day ever. I'll never forget, we got into the Capitol building, and it was a day I'll remember forever. I'm proud to be a part of it. She also, of course, posted this. Inside the Capitol building. She is the one in the middle, with the red hat. Yeah. Oh, wait, not so proud today, are you? No, because it turns out there are actually consequences to your actions. And the thing is, you don't want to face them. You just don't want to face them. Now, the biggest crime in their books was failing to reinstall their dictator in waiting. I want you to listen to this. This video is old, but understand that this is the heart of what they want. This is what they've always wanted. This is a Trump supporter speaking to Steve Bannon.
Never in my life did I think I would like to see a dictator, but if there's going to be one, I want it to be Trump.
Never forget, that's who they are. Okay, moving on. Now Bannon is trying to rile up the shock troopers. That's true. That should be very concerning. Very, very concerning to all of us. All right. Stephanie Grisham continues to spill the tea. Now, she is the former White House communications director and as well as former aide to Melania Trump, former First Lady. And so now she's written this book. Yes, it's a cash grab, but I just can't help myself. These stories are funny and they're fun. And so also kind of scary. So now one of the latter stories is an event where she describes having some real big misgivings about some of the dictation that she was forced to take and also say on behalf of Donald Trump. So now in one weekend call from the president, Grisham described him ranting about General John Kelly and his comments in the conservative Washington Examiner. So now John Kelly said something like, oh, I wish that he would replace me with somebody who's not a yes man, somebody who will, keep him from saying and doing insane things because I am worried about him. So now Trump takes this as a complete act of disloyalty. But let me, before I get into that though, I want to give you the full quote in context here. He said, quote, "I said, whatever you do," and we were still in the process of trying to find someone to take my place. I said, "Whatever you do, don't hire a yes man, someone who won't tell you the truth. Don't do that, because if you do, I believe you will be impeached." Oops. Big surprise. He was right. Because of course he was right. So now, John Kelly's statements, of course, drove Donald Trump into a frothing rage and decided to call Grisham over the weekend. Grisham wrote that she dreaded these weekend calls, which apparently happened more than once, from Trump because he could be, quote, set off by anything. And if you can remember, I believe it was Steve Bannon, Omarosa, Manigault, who would constantly bring Trump negative news articles or videos from CNN and be like, can you just look and see what they're saying about you on CNN, on MSNBC? And it would drive him again into a rage. He'd be like, oh my God, how dare they? Fake news. Oh, God damn it. You put out a statement. Give me my phone so I can tweet. So now, in this case, one of those weekend calls involved John Kelly, as I said. Donald Trump demanded that she push back hard against John Kelly in his statements. Grisham then explains that she had dictated a statement that sounded the way that he dictated tweets to Dan Scavino. Here's what it was. "I worked with John Kelly, and he was totally unequipped to handle the genius of our great president," Trump said, writing and rewriting and rambling in between. She feared that she had to get it perfectly correct, otherwise, quote, he would get irritated if it wasn't right. Once it was correctly read back to him, that statement, which sounds insane, he said, "Good." She then described him as being satisfied with himself and writes, "It wasn't lost on me how weird it was for someone to call himself a genius, as Trump did on more than one occasion." Yeah, on many occasions. Many occasions, many people are saying that I am a very stable genius.
And then they say, is Donald Trump an intellectual? Trust me, I'm like a smart person.
He's like a smart person. I'm like a smart person. I'm like a very stable genius. In fact, two of my best traits are that I'm like very smart and very stable. Grisham, and remember, this is something that Grisham was ordered to say on his behalf. She then cringed when she read that statement back to him. And here's what she said about it. Quote, "First, it made me sound like a complete idiot. Your typical crazy Trump cultist." Now remember, this is somebody in the administration who's saying, like, I don't want to sound like one of those morons that voted for us. Now, again, this is what they think. This is what they literally think of Trump supporters. What they think about you if you're a Trump supporter. If you voted for him, if you support him, if you're Trump 2024, MAGA. She thinks you're a moron. She thinks you're a crazy cultist. And guess what? She's not the only one. Not the only one, guys. Like, she's got your number, but they all do. They all know you're insane. And guess what? They're still pandering. Many of them are still pandering to you right now, this very moment, trying to open your wallet to contribute to whatever next, scheme that they cook up to take your money. That's what that's about. So now she also said, second, I hadn't liked everything General Kelly had done as chief of staff, but I respected him in his surface. Slamming him just didn't sit right with me. So then why did she do it? Well, here's what she said. And, take it for what it's worth. Whether or not, you think that she's like super weak or unprincipled or whatever. And that, I think, is probably the case. He would be correct. But she says, as with the First Lady, I was once again in the situation of striking back at someone in my own name on behalf of someone else who was actually the one who was pissed. Anyway, I couldn't tell Trump that. Why didn't I simply refuse? That option didn't even occur to me. He was in such a bad mood, he would have flipped out. It was another weird test of loyalty, and I was determined to pass it, but I didn't like it. Now, why did she want to pass that loyalty test? For the power, for the money. Again, that's what this is all about. It's for the power, it's for the money, it's for the clout, it's for whatever job she might have wanted to line up after the White House, or just to stay to get more so she can write a book. So understand the motives of who is writing this, but at the same time, she is correct. And she was there for the longest time and was loyal, and then realized after January 6th that she had to get out, that she had to distance herself from this narcissistic moron and his entire messed up family and cultists that surrounded him. And so I think at the end of the day, yeah, if you want to make a few bucks like she does, and you don't want to be associated with that, I kind of understand. But okay. Anyway, so now after that happened, oh, and by the way, so she did release that statement, obviously, as she said before. Let's see. I'm going to show that this is in an October 26th piece that's from 2019 in CNBC. Just going to show you that here real quick. John Kelly never said that. He never said anything like that. If he would have said it, that I would throw him out of the office. He just wants to come back into the action like everybody else does, Trump said in a statement. Grisham said, I worked with John Kelly, and he was totally unequipped to handle the genius of our great president. It's a real statement. It's out there. So now, a hometown newspaper columnist at the Arizona Republic talked about this. I think a lot of us reported on how absolutely insane that sounded. And she said, they wrote, to suggest that a man like Kelly was unequipped to handle the genius of Trump is not just proof that Grisham is hooked on the president's Kool-Aid. It's proof that she's OD'd. He ain't wrong. Now, if you're going to release something that's unhinged like that, yeah, of course people are going to think that you're absolutely nuts. Because it is nuts. But it gets better. Just days after, Grisham recalled Trump calling her and telling her how much he appreciated what she had said about him, which struck her as odd. So just calls her up and said, Stephanie, thank you for the very kind words. Very tremendous. All those wonderful things that you said. And she's like, wait, you told me to say those things. Well, it was as if he didn't remember that he had composed it in the first place. Now, look, maybe it's because he didn't remember. We all know some of the stories by now of other staffers saying that he doesn't remember telling people to do things, even things that are illegal. So he'll order staffers like, oh, do this thing that might be illegal. And they're like, but sir, it's illegal. I don't care, do it anyway. And then later on, well, actually, no, first, they'll say, okay, yes, sir, we'll do it. And then later on, after they don't do it, he'll forget. And so he'll never ask about it again. And look, it's like this man has no object permanence at all. He doesn't read. He doesn't absorb new information. He's a one-pager kind of guy. He has no attention span whatsoever and a gigantic ego. Maybe he knows, and maybe I'm being unfair here. Maybe. I know. Maybe. But like, maybe he knows that he dictated that to her. At the back of his mind, maybe. And that he says, and that he's convinced himself that she was saying all these nice things because he really is a genius and he is fantastic. And John Kelly, of course, is terrible. And that's why he could never match up to the genius of working for Donald Trump. And it's this weird, like, trying to convince himself that all the nice things that he orders people to say about him are actually things that they wanted to say about him. It's some very weird mental gymnastics going on here, which is kind of why it's difficult to wrap my brain around it, because normal people don't have to do that. But again, we're talking about Donald Trump here, who is basically a giant toddler. I don't know for certain, but the story itself is, and all of the stuff that we've known about Trump from leakers and people who were in the administration, who were part of the administration, who had leaked, and who would come out afterwards to basically confirm all this stuff and say, yeah, that was a mess. Yep. It is also disturbingly weird, and it's sad. Very sad. I don't know. All right. Let's go to Mike Pillow. You're going to love this. As usual, Mike Pillow. All right, I hope I have that queued up. Mike Pillow has a genius new plan to overturn the election. That means it's time for another episode of Pillow Talk.
The choices being made inside of Facebook are disastrous.
Oh, of course. Hold on, let me fix that. We're gonna get a proper Pillow Man entrance here. All right.
God gave me this platform. I already know I'm going to win. China did our vote. Biden and Harris would say, hey, we're here to protect the country, and resign. Mike Lindell's a conspiracy. But you haven't. Just forget about the evidence. This was attacked.
Okay. Do we have insanity in the control room? So, after the failure of the Cyber Symposium and the numerous predictions that did not pan out, Mike Lindell is, he's got a new plan. He's going to send people to your house. They're coming to your house. They're coming to your house. So now this information comes from Josh Merritt, who is a former member of Lindell's Red Team at his August Cyber Symposium in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. He told Salon that Lindell is funding a last-ditch door-knocking effort based on rumors that there are phantom voters. Ooh, scary. Phantom voters. Phantom. So now, what's phantom voters? I know it's getting close to Halloween, but who are the phantom voters? Apparently, there are people who have died or moved away and are no longer on the official rolls. So now the claim is, of course, dead people voted overwhelmingly in favor of Joe Biden and Democrats, even though this claim has, of course, been thoroughly debunked before. But hey, never let facts stop a good conspiracy theory, because, of course. Merritt added that Lindell is targeting areas of question based off of info from guys like Dr. Douglas Frank and Seth Keshel. Frank and Keshel are two of Lindell's close associates who have pushed a variety of baseless claims of voter fraud on the Pillow Tycoon's behalf over the past year. Keshel, who identifies himself on LinkedIn as a tech company sales manager and former baseball analyst, who also ran a failed election attempt, but does not identify with having any election experience, had released a report that alleged massive voter fraud. So here we have a situation where we got these rando people who are not analysts or experts in the field that are looking at election data that is publicly available, by the way, and they look through it, not understanding what the numbers mean, and say, oh, look at that. Look, oh, I found the fraud. So much fraud. Tremendous fraud. But like when actual experts look at it, well, we'll get to that, actually. So now his report says that the state-by-state tallies of excess votes for Biden are quote-unquote lenient estimates that demand further research, but then frequently repeats the false claim that the number suggests that there was widespread fraud. Harvard University political scientist Gary King had reviewed the report, previously reviewed similar election claims from Keschel as part of a lawsuit in Arizona. In both situations, King said this, that the data showed no evidence of fraud and ignored the reality that voters act in ways that don't match up with predictive modeling. I mean, think about it this way, right? So Republicans overwhelmingly accepted the 2016 election results, for example, right? Not a problem there. Now, that happened to have not matched some of the predictions, for example, run by people like Nate Silver over at 538, and a lot of predictions from mainstream media, right? Oh, no, Trump's going to lose, Hillary Clinton's going to win, she's going to be the next president, et cetera, et cetera. And what happened? Well, that did not happen. Those predictive models were wrong. Now, conservatives have no problem with that. And they're like, yeah, in your face, polls are wrong. Yeah. Now, they're going and saying that these counts, right, these predictive models that show that Trump was going to win didn't match what they were predicting. And so they're, instead of looking at it as like, oh, wow, we were off. Wow, it turns out that the voters did not act the way that we predicted they were going to act. They look at that and say, fraud, total fraud, tremendous fraud, the biggest fraud. But when experts look at it, they said, quote, there is zero valuable academic information here, King told the Associated Press. He's not the only one. So now, University of Georgia political scientist and pollster Trey Hood also reviewed the report and came to a similar conclusion, not surprising. Quote, this is certainly no method for uncovering voter fraud. It doesn't show anything. I wouldn't even call it a gross simplification. It's just nothing. But nonetheless, you go to Mike Pillow, who's trying to continuously make something out of nothing. In a recent video appearance on his Frank Speech website, which I will not sign up for, out of principle, because I don't want to get hacked. Do you trust that guy with your information? Nope, I wouldn't think so. So I'm going to just, give you some quotes here from that video. He said, we are in a race here, how much damage they can do before we get this election pulled down. I want to show everybody with the data and the packet captures, all the stuff we had. What we did over 5 months, I extrapolated. We had the cyber experts extrapolate that into numbers that we can read into real data. I want to do an example. I want to tell everybody the conversation I had with North Dakota today. Okay, so let me just stop there for a second. And just let me tell you how difficult it is to read Mike Lindell. It's nonsense. It's a bunch of sentences and stuff together, but it goes everywhere. I spoke with North Dakota today. No, you didn't. Was it somebody named North Dakota? Like, I'm just saying. I'm asking questions here. Yeah, how do you talk with North Dakota? You just say, look, I spoke with some election officials in North Dakota today, and here's what they said about that. And what they said, of course, is that my theories are crap and I should go home. I mean, that's what they would really tell you. But no, there's more. So he said, well, first of all, for about a month and a half now, you guys, I've been going to the red states. I've been going to your Missouris, your Alabamas. I'm in Florida right now. I'm in your Missouris. I'm in your Alabamas. I'm coming to your Floridas. And I'm coming, and then I'm going to come for you, knock on your door. No thanks. No thanks, bro. I'm good. Real good. He continues. What happened was all the ground people on the ground, just patriots out there, were telling their legislators and their governors to meet with Mike Lindell's team. Let me show you the evidence. So we met with these guys and we showed them that it happened in their state. you get to Missouri, they go, oh, it didn't happen here. Alabama, oh, it didn't happen here. And then you show them a county, and you show them the evidence of that county. Then you go canvass. You do a canvassing, and now you've got real numbers. Do you, though? Do you really? I mean, so now if thinking about Mike Lindell or one of his crazy followers knocking on your door makes you cringe, as it should, well, don't worry about that. Salon did some following up, and they were unable to track down any Arizona or Missouri voters who had been personally contacted by Lindell's team. Now, it is certainly possible that people did try to knock on somebody's door. Maybe they went down a couple of streets, had a couple of people knocking on doors. And, it's possible that there were some conversations that Salon were not privy to. Maybe they didn't want to talk to liberal media or whatever. But there's also a good chance that this did not happen. That nobody knocked on any doors. Or maybe, nobody answered, and somebody knocked on a door or somebody answered. I don't know. I don't know what happened. There's just no evidence. Boy, that sounds like it can apply to a lot of the things or everything that Mike Lindell claims. It's just no evidence. But I can imagine right now somebody in Arizona. Hey, Dad, there's a weird guy with a pillow on our porch. You go and hide, Timmy. I'll get the gun. No, insanity. Absolute insanity. Come on. But again, that's Mike Lindell's whole shtick right now, okay? So understand, and I've told you a million times, there's no constitutional way to reinstate a president or pull down an election. You can't do that. There's no constitutional mechanism for this. And his claim that, we're going to have the Supreme Court, they're going to look at this, and it's going to be 9-0. I'm going to show them the evidence that nobody has been shown outside of, I guess, Mike Lindell, who believes that this is evidence. But even so, the path to even get heard by the Supreme Court, he's not even tried. You got to file a lawsuit. It's got to travel through the court system to even make it to the Supreme Court for consideration. And none of that's happened. None of that has happened. And it's not going to happen. You know why? Because even Trump-appointed justices, if this were to happen, they're going to shoot it down. Why? Because there's no evidence. And that's assuming that it even gets filed ever. But here's the thing, okay? Here's the reality of the situation. Trump lost legitimately. And if you still don't believe it at this point, you need mental help. I'm serious. I mean, I wish we had Medicare for all so we could get everybody mental health care. Because you don't live an objective reality anymore. You live in a place filled with alternative facts. An alternative reality. Mike has lost it. He's insane. True. All right. So let me fix my video here, and then we'll get to the next one. Let's see.
Kids are
Just doing a double check. All right. Let's get into the Facebook story. said Facebook story. Has anyone seen the quality of my pillows? They're horribly and cheaply made. True. True. All right. A former employee at Facebook has blown the whistle on the social media giant for amplifying hate, misinformation, and division in order to push engagement and make a profit. So now this is Frances Haugen, and she was formerly assigned to the Civic Integrity Division at Facebook, which worked on reducing risks related to elections, including disinformation, misinformation, etc. So now that, of course, involves things like the big lie, which is spread through conservative media, and with Facebook being as big as it is, ended up reaching millions of people who now do not believe that Joe Biden won the election. They do not believe that he's a legitimate president, even though every state has certified the election and Congress has certified the election, and there has been no proof of voter fraud, mass voter fraud, or any of these allegations. They're just simply nonsense. Nonetheless, this is what happens when you have a bubble of media consumption that is full of conspiracy theorists. So now Haugen left in May, and when she did, had released a trove of documents last month in the Wall Street Journal. So it didn't get picked up all that much, unfortunately. At least I didn't see it, and I'm pretty sure most people on Facebook did not see it. And so she decided to come out publicly to 60 Minutes and talk about what she saw was a big problem at Facebook, and that is basically doing what all corporations do: put money over safety. So now she told 60 Minutes that the thing that I saw at Facebook over and over again was that there were conflicts of interest between what was good for the public and what was good for Facebook. And Facebook, over and over again, chose to optimize for its own interests, like making more money. Yes. I don't know, I hate to break it to you, but that's literally every single corporation ever. I mean, you want an example? ExxonMobil. ExxonMobil hid climate change research for decades from the public, even though their own internal documents said that, oh, right, we have a problem with climate change. We are contributing to climate change directly with our emissions. They still, instead of coming out publicly and saying, yes, this is true, and then vowing to, not just vowing to, but allowing regulators to go and regulate carbon emissions so that we could eventually get off fossil fuels, they instead paid think tanks and conservative politicians and Democratic politicians as well to go and muddy the waters on climate change and also to stymie or stall any sort of progress made on alternative energy. Things like solar panels and wind turbines and hydroelectric and things like that that did not involve oil, gas, or coal. So fossil fuels. And so that's one example. You also had tobacco companies, of course, that lied. Oh, no, cigarettes, tobacco does not cause cancer. Anybody who's saying that, not, incorrect. The studies do not show that. No, the studies do show that. Tobacco, massive health risk. And of course, the thing about that is, just like in this situation with Facebook, here you had the tobacco companies. Anybody remember John Boehner, former Speaker of the House for the Republican side, was there for a very, very long time, and he used to hand out tobacco checks on the floor of the House to other people that have been bought off by big tobacco. So, yes, this is something that all these companies do, all these corporations do. Which is why, of course, you might want to break these things up and regulate them. Now, I want to show you, by the way, some video from her testimony to Congress that happened on yesterday. Just a short little piece of that, and then we'll discuss. Take a look.
The choices being made inside of Facebook are disastrous. The company's leadership knows how to make Facebook and Instagram safer, but won't make the necessary changes because they have put their astronomical profits before people.
You're saying that documents exist that at the highest level at Facebook, you had information discussing these two choices, and that people chose, even though they knew that it was misinformation and hurtful and maybe even causing people lives, they continued to choose profit.
Mark Zuckerberg was directly presented with a list of, quote, soft interventions and chose to not remove downstream MSI. And in the end, the buck stops with Mark. There is no one currently holding Mark accountable but himself.
All right, so obviously she talks a little bit about Facebook. She talks about Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO of Facebook, of course. But here's the thing. So now she said the company's leadership knows how to make Facebook and Instagram safe, but they won't make the changes because they have put their profits before people. Well, of course, this is no duh. This is no kidding. Of course, that's what corporations do. They have a fiduciary responsibility to make money, to have a return on investment for shareholders. Again, that's what they do. That is the primary function of a corporation. They're literally doing exactly what we programmed them for, and we are supposed to be surprised at the results. We are supposed to be surprised that capitalism is going to capitalism. I am not surprised. No one is surprised. In fact, this is all, again, what every single corporation in the world does. Puts profits before people, before safety, before everything. This is not a surprise. And funny enough, there were people questioning her that have actual direct financial stock incentives in Facebook. So this, let's just keep that in mind, all right? But of course, there's more. So now, getting into a little bit more of the nitty-gritty of how this works, in her 60 Minutes interview, she talked about the algorithms. Now, she said, the algorithm picks from thousands of options based on the kind of content you've engaged with most in the past. This is how YouTube also does its algorithms. And one of the consequences, she says, of how Facebook is picking up that content is it is optimizing for content that gets engagement or reaction. So now, doing what I do, engagement, we know, is a very important, the most important factor in whether or not, for example, my videos get sent out to a larger public. If there's more reactions, if there's more likes, if there's more comments, that's going to get this out to a bigger audience. It is going to be served up to people who have similar things in their recommendation lists. That is how the YouTube algorithm works, and I'm pretty sure it's similar to the Facebook algorithm, which does the same thing. So more reactions equals more views, and more views, more reactions, on and on and on until it spirals and snowballs. That's what happens. So now, unsurprisingly, Facebook's own research says that showing content that is hateful and divisive and polarizing is easier to inspire anger than it is to other emotions, she says. And so basically, she says, disinformation, stuff that can get a rise out of people, get people angry, get people upset, or all that stuff gets them engagement. So now she also points out that, well, we don't want to change that. Facebook doesn't want to change that, because if they do, then our view counts go down. And that's going to affect us on our bottom line. Because there's going to be less engagement with our stuff, less ads being shown, less everything, and that means we make less money. And so understand, too, that this works because we as human beings are emotional creatures. And so this is always going to appeal to us. No matter what Facebook does, no matter what the algorithm is set out, no matter who is banned, that is still human truth. We are emotional creatures, and we respond to emotional things. We respond to emotional appeals. Okay? And so she says that Facebook had realized that if they change the algorithm to be safe, people will spend less time, they'll click less ads, they'll make less money, and of course, we have a winner. Facebook doesn't care about safety, and neither do any of these social media. It's all about numbers, it's all about engagement, ads, personal information being sold to third parties. And it's not just the government, by the way, that's spying on you. It's corporations. It's corporations so they can sell you things, but also sell you your information, your shopping habits, your history, the stuff that you like, so that they can serve it back to you and make you buy things with those targeted ads. That's what it is. That's what it is. So now, if that happens to be anti-vax content that you have interacted with, whether it be positive or negatively, you're going to see more and more anti-vax content being delivered to you, as well as conspiracy theories or things that make you angry. It's going to give you more. It is designed to do so. It's going to serve you up those kinds of videos, that kind of content. So now Hougen says Facebook understands the danger of conspiracies, especially in regards to the 2020 election. And so they did turn on some safety systems to try to reduce the amount of misinformation, but they only did so temporarily. She said this, and as soon as the election was over, they turned them back off, or they changed the setting back to where they were before to prioritize growth over safety. And that really feels like a betrayal of democracy. So again, this is the problem here. What you have is a system where companies amplify the worst of human nature in order to make a buck. And that's it. That's the problem. So now understand that there is a free speech component to this as well, and a free expression component. Okay? So now, the thing is, nobody likes censorship, right? Nobody wants to have a platform where everybody's or different voices are censored. I get that. But I think there's something in that discussion that is being missed. And so I think everybody likes to imagine that everyone here on this platform, for example, we'll take YouTube, okay? YouTube on this platform, they think, well, every voice is equal, right? Every voice, every viewpoint is equal, and it's up to the consumer, to go and choose that, right? So now the problem with that is that we're actually not on an even platform. We're not on the equal playing field. And for example, if you have channels that do thoughtful analysis, that do fact checking, that try to give you factual information, they're not going to be as well recommended or recommended as much by those algorithms and by the engagement levels as something that is anger, as something that is false information, fake news, actual fake news that is served up because people want to hear what they want to hear. Okay? And so I think the fact that we are not on an even playing field here, for example, there are channels that do a lot of excellent, thoughtful analysis, right? Now, that takes time. That's a lot of labor. That's a lot of research, making sure that you get your facts correct, and of course, going into editing and things like that. That's a lot more difficult to produce, hours-wise, than it is for people who make up conspiracy theories and rant at a camera. Okay? So now, that content is very easy. It's very cheap to produce. You are able to flood the algorithms with it. And by the way, that same disinformation that is cheap and easy to produce also gets backed and supported by organizations that want to sow distrust in institutions, be it media, medicine, science, politicians, etc. So understand that there is, of course, reason for some of us to have some distrust in our institutions that are fairly corrupt at this point. All right? But the thing is, many of these concepts, these things that are being, basically that have been teaching these creators that teach our audiences to distrust these things 100% completely, also play into a right-wing narrative. For example, you've got YouTubers that are funded by the Koch brothers. You've got other YouTubers funded by the same people that fund places like PragerU. You've got shady billionaires that are pumping out this message, that are supporting these creators, like Dave Rubin, for example, to put out nonsense, to pump out this content that is basically driving people to anger, rage, hate, and getting tons of engagement and turning people over to the conservative mindset. Tim Pool is another good example. There's no thoughtful analysis from Tim Pool. Tim Pool reads an article and then claims, Oh, you see, this is a proof of the upcoming civil war. Something, SJWs, radical leftists, and free speech. And the guy pumps out like 12 videos in an hour. And just like that, sits back afterwards and gets millions of views. How many videos is According done on Brie Larson? I mean, how many have certain people done on AOC? It's nonsense. And so understand that easy, cheap, clickbaity, anger-driving content filled with disinformation is really easy and cheap to do, and that's why it is flooded. And by the way, the people that put that out are rewarded through the algorithm. And that is the business model on these platforms, on social media. That's why the entire social media system is broken. So now on that, Haugen says, it's one of these unfortunate consequences, right? No one at Facebook is malevolent, but the incentives are misaligned. Like Facebook makes more money when you consume more content, people enjoy engaging with things that elicit an emotional reaction. And the more anger they get exposed to, the more they interact and the more they consume. She added, we know we are bad for society. We know if we don't take those positions, we won't win in the marketplace of social media. Now, she also discusses Instagram and some of the effects from that on teenagers. Here's that video real quick.
Kids are saying, I am unhappy when I use Instagram and I can't stop. That if I leave, I'm afraid I'll be ostracized.
Right.
And that's so sad.
So they know that.
That's what their research shows.
All right, so on that, the numbers are pretty disastrous. One study says that 13.5% of teen girls say that Instagram makes thoughts of suicide worse. 17% of teen girls say Instagram makes their eating disorders worse. But according to Facebook's research, depression actually makes them use the app more. So they're incentivized to use this app more, even though it's making them miserable. Insane. Insane. And so at the end of the day, here we have social media companies that elevate right-wing content because it is massively funded and backed by billionaires that want to, of course, push a narrative, that narrative being deregulation, tax cuts for the rich, and will use these social issues that are divisive, like pushing misinformation about vaccines, pushing misinformation about, for example, LGBTQ plus people, et cetera, about science, climate change, et cetera. And they do that, and really it's aimed at eliciting emotional reactions, mainly anger, but then fear, you've got disgust, like, for example, the anti-immigration rhetoric. But they do so because it gets people to engage and spend more time on the platform, clicking ads and making Facebook more money. And again, this happens on YouTube. This happens everywhere else. Anywhere that there is a video platform, you're going to have this issue. And so that's the problem. Now, what's the solution? That's more difficult. Now, humans are humans, right? And I support the free expression of ideas, and I don't want to support censorship. At the same time, we got to also understand that there's no even playing field between those who honestly try to talk about real subjects and have real discussions and solve real problems, and those who rift off anger and fear and spread conspiracy theories. And so the only thing that I can think to solve the problem is to break up the companies. You break them up and you make them nonprofit entities. So if you remove that profit motive, they no longer have the incentive to push disinformation and therefore elevate disinformation, where you can actually start to challenge disinformation with real information and not have to just ban people. Because what's going on in the current system here is that you still are always going to have that profit motive based on engagement. And the most insane stuff always tends to get the most engagement. And so remove it. Break them up. Break up Facebook. End it. Break up Facebook. Break up Google. Break up Twitter. Break up all these incredibly large social media companies. And then remove that profit motive. Make them nonprofit. I don't know if that's the solution or not. I don't know if that's the perfect solution. But at least it's something that we should have on the table and we should have a discussion about it. Because right now, what's going on is simply unsustainable when it comes to a democratic society. We have to have an informed populace that is not misled by, again, corporate media and their incentives, which include in these platforms that have their own monetary incentives. We've got to get that all out, or else we are going to lose our democracy. All right. It's a difficult subject. Facebook does nothing to deserve profit. True. Why they should be non-profit. All right. One more here. We're making the frogs gay. Gets more clicks than the most recent economic study from Latin America. True. 100%. 100% on that. All right. More corporate fuckery. You may have remembered several years ago that a cash document showing how the wealthy were getting away with hiding their billions of dollars overseas came out and was immediately forgotten. So that was the Panama Papers. So there's a lot to do, about the Panama Papers and the secrets of the ultra rich and how they're screwing us over. And then the media was immediately like, okay, forget about that. Well, there's another one, another set of documents, which is actually much larger and again deserves more coverage than what we're getting now. So now, this document, this cache of documents is known as the Pandora Papers, and it's been published by the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists. In what is being called the biggest ever leak of offshore data, cache of nearly 12 million documents published Sunday laid bare the hidden wealth, secret dealings, and corruption of hundreds of world leaders, billionaires, public officials, celebrities, and others. So now this document contains private emails, secret contracts, and other records obtained during a 2-year investigation involving more than 600 journalists in 117 countries and territories. So this is worldwide. Worldwide. So what they found was nothing more than a hive of scum and villainy, involving, of course, shell corporations, trusts that are legal to create, but can be misused because of lax regulation created by corrupt lawmakers, a lot of which happen to be in the United States. So this basically allows very, very rich people, world leaders, etc., to shield their assets from taxation and thus depriving, of course, countries, governments of much needed revenue to do things like, I don't know, serve regular people, regular human beings. So now, some of the current and former world leaders that feature in this are Russian President Vladimir Putin, Jordanian King Abdullah II, and former British Prime Minister Tony Blair, among many others. So now, how they do this is they set up offshore companies, offshore trusts. So they set up the trust and they use that trust to buy shell companies, and where you cannot actually track where that money comes from because trusts are highly secretive. These shell companies then, again, will purchase things like property in other countries, as well as luxury items like yachts, as well as incognito bank accounts. There's even been reports in these documents of art that was looted from Cambodia. You also have paintings by Picasso and murals by Banksy that have been purchased through shell companies. I mean, how extensive this is wild. So now these trusts, we find out from the papers, are also located not just in places, I should say, like Panama, Dubai, Monaco, Switzerland, the Cayman Islands, you know, the usual suspects, right? Turns out we got a lot of them right here in the United States. In fact, South Dakota, in particular, has sheltered billions of dollars in wealth linked to individuals previously accused of serious financial crimes. So now, again, you're looking at a lot of different leaders here. For example, Ukraine's president, Vladimir Zelensky, was elected in 2019 to clean up corruption. You're going to find that this is a theme here, is named in the leak. During the campaign, Zelensky transferred his 25% stake in an offshore company to a close friend who now works as the president's top advisor. Oh, interesting. Weird how that works out. Now, you have associates that are close to Vladimir Putin, who are named in the leak, including his best friend from childhood, the late Peter Kolbin, also known as Putin's wallet, and a woman the Russian leader was allegedly once romantically involved in. Andrei Babis, the prime minister of the Czech Republic, is a billionaire founder of agriculture conglomerate Agrofert. In 2019, he was elected the prime minister on a populist platform. But in 2019, Babis secretly paid $22 million for a chateau in a French villa near Cannes. I don't know if I said that city right. He routed the money through shell companies in the British Virgin Islands and Washington, D.C., and a real estate management firm in Monaco. Interesting. Now, it turns out London is also a pretty big hive of this kind of stuff as well, of this corruption. And a lot of deals go through London, but a lot of deals also, as I said, go through South Dakota. And this is just a sampling. This is a gigantic trove of documents. And so we're going to be seeing a lot of details here. So now, interestingly enough, there's a couple people who are missing. Turns out a lot of Americans are missing. Now the question is why? It shouldn't be surprising, you know, if we find out that our billionaires are hiding their money. I mean, of course they are. We know they are. So why aren't they in these papers? Well, experts told NPR that the U.S. has such low, embarrassingly low tax rates that our billionaires, they don't have to do this. They're just like, we already don't pay any taxes here in this country anyway. So why would we need to do this? Why would we need to create shell companies in South Dakota when we already pay such a low tax rate? Lowest taxes in the world, corporate taxes. Or at least some of the lowest taxes in the world. And it's just not worth it to them. So, and by the way, regulations also in this country is incredibly weak. So now there are two states in particular that come up, and that's South Dakota and Nevada. Researchers noted that these states have adopted financial secrecy laws that rivaled those of offshore jurisdictions like the Cayman Islands. In that state alone, South Dakota, assets and trusts more than quadrupled over the past decade to $360 billion. One of the largest trust companies in the state, the South Dakota Trust Company, boasts a roster of international clients from 54 countries. Other states include New Hampshire, Alaska, and Delaware. All states that have laws that are very, very favorable to corporations and protect trusts from the claims of future creditors and allow them to stay, as I said, relatively secret, so no disclosure, which allows them to hide money from law enforcement agencies. Now, as I said, this is bigger than the Panama Papers. In fact, ICIJ Director Gerard Ryle says this is like the Panama Papers, but on steroids. It's broader, richer, and it has more detail. There's never been anything on this scale, and it shows the reality of what offshore companies can offer to help people hide dodgy cash or avoid tax. So as I said before, trusts aren't illegal, offshore companies aren't illegal. But the way that they're structured definitely leads to money laundering. And so, I don't know, maybe there's some regulation here. You might want to use it So now, Shireen Abadi, a former FBI officer who served as lead agent on dozens of financial crimes, cases told the Post, quote, "The offshore financial system is a problem that should concern every law-abiding person in the world." Abadi pointed to the role that offshore accounts and asset shielding trusts play in drug trafficking, ransomware attacks, arms trading, and other crimes that they can't track because of the shady nature of trusts. These systems, she says, don't just allow tax cheats to avoid paying their fair share, they undermine the fabric of a good society. Nearly 30 of the trusts in the papers so far held assets connected to people or companies accused of fraud, bribery, or human rights abuses in some of the world's most vulnerable communities. An ICIJ said Sunday that the publication of the Pandora Papers stories comes at a critical moment in the global debate over the fairness of the international tax system, the role of Western professionals in the shadow economy, and the failure of governments to staunch the flow of dirty money into hidden companies and trusts, that the documents are expected to yield new revelations for years to come. So now the question here is, what's going to happen? Based on what happened with the Panama Papers? Nothing. Not a lot. And I'm going to be honest with you here. This is bleak. This is incredibly bleak. I mean, do you think that Republicans and corporate Democrats are going to shut this down by passing laws about transparency? No, I don't think so. I don't think so. And again, this isn't technically illegal, but it's because they rigged the system. This is massive corruption. And again, you know, seeing what happened with the Panama Papers beforehand, I'm pretty sure the media, corporate media in the US, is going to try to bury this as much as possible. But what's the next scandal? What's the next scandal? Oh, I know, Twitch got hacked. Twitch, look at how much money Hassan Piker made. Claims he's a socialist, made $200,000. Oh my God, what a scandal. Please forget about all the billionaires and millionaires that are hiding their money in South Dakota. Forget all about it. Next one, next scandal, please pay attention to something else and don't actually tax us billionaires. Please, please. That's what's going to happen. This is embarrassing. It's embarrassing that we live in a country that can't afford to give people health care. Can't afford, say they can't afford Medicare for all. Can't afford child care. Can't afford free college. And yet is one of the biggest places where companies and billionaires go to hide their money. How are we not considered a banana republic at this point? I know we were the ones that originally made the banana republics, but now we are wholly owned by corporations and the rich who have bought off our system. And by the way, this is embarrassing for Joe Biden. Why? Joe Biden ran on stopping offshore tax havens. Oh, wait till he reads this report. Not going to be happy about that, because it turns out we're probably one of the biggest tax havens on the planet. You might want to do something about that. You might want to actually, I don't know, fight against the corporations, fight against the owner-donors, as Nina Turner says, and create a government that is responsive to the people and not to the corporations. I have very little doubt that these corporate establishment politicians are actually new about this. It's embarrassing, and they're just going to want it to go away. Which is why I want to keep covering this story. I want to keep talking about this, and we should all keep talking about it. You should share this video and show people, and just to remind them, even if we all already know about this, because we all do, we feel it in our gut. We know that this is happening. We know we're getting screwed over by corporations every single day, and by the wealthy who are not paying their fair share. We know it. We know it. Well, it's time to get this together, and fight against the corruption in a legal way, in a way that is able to redress our grievances, calling our politicians, demanding an end to the corruption, and never stopping. Got to do something in order to stop this and to get our democracy back. Okay. That's it. That's all I got. So, that was a little bit of extra time. Thank you for staying with me. Thank you for the very kind super chats. I really appreciate that. A couple of them. There's new ones here. Okay. Before we head out, we need to remember the tolerance paradox. AT&T funds OANN heavily thanks to internal documentation. Yeah, I'm going to look into that as well. And the FBI raided the NYPD this week because of not cops. All that stuff's very, very important. Absolutely. So, let's see. Oh, I forgot to get on Twitch here. Let's do that. Raid. Who do we raid today? I think we should raid you, by the way. Thank you, Ms. Frazzled, for resubbing for a month to tier 1. Appreciate that. You know, it's funny. All 50, near 50 of my subs on Twitch were probably released in the hack. So you can see the total of like $100 that I made off Twitch the last month. Wow. I know. I'm rich, bitch. Doing great. All right. Anyway, thank you all again. I appreciate you. Thank you for watching. We're gonna be back tomorrow. Good stuff, as usual. So tune in 4 p.m. Eastern right here. That's Waldorf Nation or Jeff Waldorf Show on Facebook and on Twitch at Jeff Waldorf. So, all right, everybody. Again, thank you. Love you. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, Nation. See you all tomorrow. Have a good night.
Who's got a hammer?
Stop with the questions. Celebrate. How you like that, boy?
Please clap. You're kicking me out the door. You're kicking me out the door.